Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of JK Sports Podcast. Today, we got a special episode, as I promised. We got John Chapman of the 49ers Rush Podcast on today. How's it going, man?
Man, it is a great day. It's Friday, talking some football. And I don't know what else you would rather do, but I'm just happy to be here. Love what you guys do. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Of course, man. Yeah, we're super excited for this show. And I'm super excited to be talking mostly 49ers for the first time because that's my team, man. So why don't we just hop right into it? So today, man, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions before we get into the juicy stuff like Trey Lance. Um, what do you think we should be expecting from the Niners this year? We had a big draft, big draft. What are we expecting from this team?
It's interesting because usually when a team trades so much draft capital up and picks in the top three, like the 49ers did, you're thinking it's for an instant playmaker and like, oh man, this is a rebuilding team. You're trying to get those cornerstone pieces. There's not a lot of examples in the NFL of a team that is the 49ers caliber doing this. It's almost non-existent because, here we are, what are we, like 16 months removed from being in the Super Bowl. The
Yeah.
roster is relatively intact. There's a handful of starters that didn't return for whatever reason, trades, whatever, but the majority of the team is back. The majority of the coaching staff is back. And so you're able to go get somebody like a Trey Lance, which I love. I'm really big on Trey Lance. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that. But when you look at this draft haul, as there's not a lot of instant impact players. Trey Lance, we'll see how much he's going to play. In 2021, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the guy. But I think there's only one starter, immediate starter in this entire draft haul. And you traded back in the second round to get this guard, Aaron Banks out of Notre Dame, who I like a lot, much bigger than what Kyle Shanahan usually goes to. But that's the only starter. And I think that's a testament to what John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have built. They brought back the roster that they wanted. They were able to develop some depth, right? At the positions that have hurt them in the past: corner, running back, interior offensive line, and of course, quarterback. And so they're going to rerun it. They think that they're a good enough roster with adding only one key starter in this draft class to kind of work into where they want to be. But, if you look at Vegas, they're top 5 as far as the odds go to get to the Super Bowl. So you're thinking, man, you win the division, which is toughest division in sports, but you now have the depth to get past all these injuries.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
I wanted to say something quick. I actually loved what the 49ers did addressing running back in the draft, too, something that my team did not do. But I like how like two guys, like that running back room was kind of becoming depleted, by letting guys like Tevin Coleman go and Matt Breida gone and everything. So it's kind of like they brought in like Trey Sermon, right, from Ohio State. Yeah, he was like a draft crush of mine. I wanted him on the Dolphins if we couldn't get anybody in the first, 2 rounds as far as running backs go. And I think that's like a great move. I think they pretty much got Carlos Hyde again or something out there.
And I think, again, there were so many gross generalizations about what Kyle Shanahan wants, and he totally broke the mold. He's never drafted a guard in the 5 years he's been with the 49ers. He goes and drafts 2. He's drafted 1 running back, and that was Joe Williams. Never even had a carry for the 49ers. Absolute bust. They trade up for a running back, get Trey Sermon, who we talked about, but then draft again in the 6th round and get Elijah Mitchell. So you see so many tendency breakers in this draft. I feel like the evolution of John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan's taken place, and it's a welcomed one from somebody that's followed this team for a long time. We love Kyle Shanahan, obviously, but there are some things that kind of bother you about him, and kind of his arrogance with personnel and play calling. And so we're starting to see kind of that maturing process. And I think that this is going to be a welcomed adjustment to the 49ers faithful.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of Trey Sermon, I feel like he is so different in the sense that he's not going to be that home run hitter that we've come to expect. Almost everybody's 4.3 speed, right? Except for maybe Jeff Wilson on that roster. But now we got Trey Sermon, a banger, somebody who's going to smack you for 4, 5, 6, 7 yards with those elite splits he has. And if we had somebody like that maybe in the Super Bowl, we might not have had to rely on Jimmy G throwing the ball so many times in the fourth quarter because we would have been banging down that defensive line just constantly throughout the game. And we
Yeah,
also have somebody who's going to be durable, I feel like.
yeah, I think you hit it right on the head, Joey. And probably one of the things that's in the back of my head like 24/7 is Raheem Mostert didn't get one carry in the first quarter of the damn Super Bowl. And so like I'm still just like, give the ball to Raheem, give the ball to Raheem. Well, now with Trey Sermon, like you said, he's not the burner. He's not a 4-3 guy. But if you look at his yards per carry, one of the chief characteristics of the Kyle Shanahan running game is he is always top 5 in yards per carry, no matter where he's been. You can go back to his days in Cleveland, Houston, Washington. It doesn't matter. Atlanta, everywhere. Trey Sermon, these are his yards per carry since high school. Senior year in high school, 7.4. Freshman year in college, 6.1. Sophomore year, 5.8. Junior year, 7.1. Last year, 7.5 yards per carry. Again, top end speed doesn't have it, but you're talking about 15 plus yard runs. He had 16 of those just in 2020. And again, you remember Ohio State played a shortened season. Right. And they only had 9 games. So he's popping 2 of those a game, and he was splitting carries at Ohio State.
Yeah, Trey Sermon, absolute monster. I tweeted about it. I wasn't a fan of the trade up, loved the pick, but the more that I think about what this guy can be for the offense, I'm just growing and growing and growing in excitement. And he won't get the touches. He might get 150, maybe 200 carries, but I think he's going to put up offensive rookie of the year type production, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns in those carries. And of course, I feel like he's going to get that 5 yards a carry. That's kind of that magic elite number in the NFL. It's like the ERA of the NFL for running backs,
Yeah, wins, I agree.
Wins can be overrated. That's like total yards, but that run per carry is what we're looking for, especially in Shanahan's offense. But yeah, let's keep pumping it out here. So as we kind of go through the season now, in 3 and 4 years down the line, right? Every single team in the NFC West, they've got their guy now, their quarterback. Kyler Murray in Arizona, young dude. Matt Stafford, he's not a young guy, but he's not old either. They just got him in the Rams. Russell, whatever. He's in Seattle. It looks like he's going to stay. And now the Niners, they got Trey Lance, the greatest player of all time.
I love it.
How do you see this division shaping up in the next, 3-4 years now that every single team has got their guy?
Well, yeah, and it's weird because you have these 3 teams, the Cardinals, the 49ers, and the Rams with these young, hot shot, good-looking coaches, whatever, offensive-minded, whatever. And then you have the oldest coach in the NFL, and Pete Carroll, who looks like he's younger than me still somehow. I think it's all the gum chewing with the mouth open. I think that's the secret, the fountain of youth.
It might be the beer you drinking, John.
Yeah, I do drink a lot of beer. That adds up. There's no doubt about that. And so it's interesting. Now, the one thing I do have to say is, last year the Cardinals were the kind of the hot offseason team, and oh man, they're making all these splashes and whatever. I think they're the worst coach team in football. I really, really do. Hey, I'm not a Kingsbury fan. I'm a Longhorn. I'm from Texas, so I followed the Big 12 very, very closely. That dude was trash with the best quarterback talent ever. He had Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, Davis Webb. He had all these guys. And couldn't come up with a winning season. Well, now he's in the NFL, and it's the same thing. And what do? They go out and they just draft. Not only draft, they just have so many short players. Like, I don't know. Like, half their team can't ride a roller coaster. You look at, they go out, they get Rondell, again, to add him to these other super short players, Kyler Murray, they get the short, fast white kid. Forget what his name is off the top of my head. Isabella, thank you.
Yeah,
They've got so many of those guys, and it's been problematic. The only thing that they've never addressed is that offensive line. They didn't touch it.
Yeah, right.
And it's just rinse, repeat every single year they're there. I don't understand what it is they're doing. They put players in bad positions. So, you talk about the NFC West. Yeah, it's going to be some problems. It's a hell of a conference. It's the best in football. But I'm going to hold up and pump the brakes a little bit on Arizona.
Well, they build from the outside in. That's their philosophy. I've never seen it work anywhere. So I'm not a believer in the Cardinals either.
Yeah, we actually had a conversation about this last year because there was all the hype going into the season. Like last year's season around the Cardinals, and they're gonna be a sneaky sleeper pick.
No.
Yeah, and we were like, no, we're like, we don't get it. We don't understand like where all
I
the
don't
hype
get it.
comes from. Like they have like no defensive identity. Wasted a first round pick last year on Isaiah Simmons. Have no idea what to do with the guy. Like it's tough. I mean, the and Tua, they let Tua rip him up when we played the
That's true. That's
Cardinals.
true.
That
Y'all
was like
looked good
best
that
game.
week, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And, you know, again, staying in the NFC West, you know, you go to the Rams, who I think are a sexy pick, and I get it because you can name off these, you know, 4 to 5 top elite players that they have on their roster, but there's
No
nothing
depth.
else. There's nothing else. They have no depth on their team. The quality of starters, they're an injury or two away, and their season is over. They've been very healthy, which has been awesome. And you never want to root for injuries for anybody, even if you hate the team. But this is the most top-heavy roster in the NFL by far, salary cap wise, draft capital wise, whatever else. And so what do? They go out and they, you know, we traded with the 49ers. We had the interdivision trade. The reason why we got, you know, Justin Simmons, I'm sorry, Trey Sermon is because we gave them 2 fourth-round picks. They go draft Tutu Atwell, who had a 5th-round grade on. This dude, wait, like people want to talk about Devontae
Little guy.
Smith and being small. This dude weighs 140 pounds. I leave that in the toilet on a Tuesday.
right.
Like, how is this guy going to bring this? It's going to be interesting. That's all I got to say. There's no depth on this team.
I mean, even if you look at their playoff game, what happened when Aaron Donald wasn't 1,000% better than every other defensive end or defensive lineman in football? They really took a hit. There was no ferocity on that defense. And now not only do you have to rely on Aaron Donald to carry your defense, but they lost a safety, they lost a linebacker, they lost someone else too. I can't remember.
Brockers, their defensive tackle next to him, who's awesome
Gone.
player. He salary cap casualty. Yeah,
They lost quality starters, is what they lost, and they didn't have many picks to fill those holes. And the picks they used on John Chapman's bowel movement on Tuesday. So I'm not sure how that's going to cover for you.
But
So,
that's because they're kind of doing what Seattle did it too, and I feel like teams are kind of they're leveraging their picks for veteran players and stuff right now. Like that's how they're like running their organization. They're like not caring. They're like, well, our window is right now, so I'm not worried about draft picks. They might like their draft picks might not even like get very many touches, any snaps this year. Honestly. So.
And I'll say this, I'm with you, Dakota. I think you nailed it. All of these franchises are in a win now mode, and that's how they're operating, salary cap wise, free agent wise, you know, draft wise, all these different things. Back to where we started, the 49ers. We drafted one starter on purpose. The 49ers are developing depth on top of talent and retaining talent and making smart financial deals and not overpaying these you know, anybody that's really out there. That's allowing them to develop depth in a conference that doesn't have it. And so it's interesting because the 49ers are zigging when all the other teams are going the opposite way. And I really think, man, if the 49ers win anytime in the next year or two, long term, they're going to have a stranglehold on this conference.
Yeah, you're talking about like kind of where Kansas City is right now. Like this sustained dominance that you think would happen. Like they're gonna own the whole NFC pretty much if it works, if the Trey Lance stuff works out and he ends up being it. Like you'll look back and be like, wow, what an amazing trade to trade into 3 and pick them up in that position they were in, like already having a great team.
Yeah, I'm the biggest Trey Lance guy out there. I'm sure some people, you know, want to put. I was
That's
really
me,
high
Joe.
on this kid.
That's me.
I love it,
number
Joey.
number 2 quarterback overall on my big board, man. Number 2.
I love it, man. And it's easy to like him. The kid's 20. He's got everything that there is, and he gets to sit and wait. We're not the Cincinnati Bengals. He doesn't have to start week 1. This kid, we can wait and develop him in the system, and whenever the time's right, he can step in. You know, we get the schedule release comes out May 13th, pretty close here. And that's going to, you know, that's going to set the timetable because that bye week, I know we're going to talk some Miami Dolphins here, and I know they got a lot of flack at the moment. I love the way they transitioned at the bye week. I love that. I understand it was not popular at the time, but remember where they were picking. The 49ers don't get Trey Lance if Miami doesn't put Tua in at the bye week and figure out what he was. And I know he wasn't like the best or whatever else, but let's say Tua came in and he stunk it up bad. He went 6-3 as a starter, by the way. But if he did, suck or whatever else, they're staying in that pick and they're taking a QB. So I love the way that worked. I'm not saying I want the transition from Jimmy G to take place at the bye week, but that starts that first window that the 49ers are watching. If Jimmy G's not elite, that's probably where that's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to that last team now, the Seattle Seahawks. That 3 to 4 year window we were talking about. Where do you see them going in that window?
There's so many problems on the team. Like, they had 3 draft picks, man. Only 3 picks. It's 1, 2, 3. Like, that's it. And you look across their offensive line, they're just staying with the whole idea. We have a great left tackle. They do. And then that's it. They like their center Lewis from last year, the rookie from last year, but there are some major issues. They got Gabe Jackson. That was a pretty good pool. But, man, Russell Wilson's the most hit quarterback in the NFL over the last decade, and that's not going to get better. They finally get a second-round pick, and what did they do? They drafted number 3 shifty wide receiver, another small guy. The entire NFC West went after small, shifty wide receivers, outside-in mentality. 49ers are drafting 335-pound guards and 210, 15-pound running backs and 235-pound quarterbacks. It's just it's so interesting, the finesse, the outside flash that the NFC West is doing, and the 49ers are just saying, no, we're going 1980 Chicago Bears, man. We're coming for you. We're coming right up the middle. And so we'll have to see what that looks like, because this roster is not a good roster whatsoever. There's a reason Russell Wilson wanted out. He didn't get his wish. He's going to play there. Awesome. He's going to act like he's happy. But would you be surprised if the Seattle Seahawks finished last in this division? I wouldn't be. I know Russ he's going to cook up some wins. He always does. Russ is amazing. But for the first time last year, the second half of the season, Russ started to look a little human. A lot of that has to do with the talent around him.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about Russ in maybe our second episode. We were talking about top 5 quarterbacks, and I went into great detail on him. And
what happened? No.
So, yeah, man, and then Russ, Matt Stafford's nicked up, and then Russ for Seattle. He that roster's just not good enough. So I see the 49ers really taking over this division, maybe even taking over the conference when Tom Brady ages out in the next 3-4 years.
So, I hope so, man. I think it's kind of the writings on the wall. I think Chicago, they're kind of the new hot team with the field trade. They had a good draft. They've got a pretty solid roster. We'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, there's a couple teams out there that I think are in the, lurking in the shadows. But the 49ers aren't one of them. And nobody would be shocked if somebody said, they make it to, 3 out of the next 5 NFC championships. I don't think anybody would be shocked.
Absolutely
Especially
not.
with the Packers, potentially losing Aaron Rodgers here. They might be totally out of the picture. You don't have to worry about them. Not like the 49ers worry about them because they smash them every time they play them.
We used to smash them with Alex Smith, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. If we have a good team, we're smashing the Packers, man. But let's keep moving on. More 49ers stuff. So kind of what you were talking about along the vein of Tua. Let's say the Niners are rolling, man, and we don't know the bye week yet, but let's say the bye week is week 8, right in the middle of the year, or week 8.5 now because there's 17 games. Right. So week 8, week 9, week 10, still throwing me off that 17th game. But let's say the Niners are rolling, man, similar to how they were in 2019. And I remember that last or 2 seasons ago now, 2019, people were not high on Jimmy because he really didn't start going nuts until that Sanders trade. So let's say Jimmy's playing around that level, but the Niners are rolling into the bye week. Do we make the trade if we're 8-1, 8-2, 9-1? Do we make not the trade, but the switch to Trey Lance?
I don't think they do. I really don't think they do. Kyle Shanahan's loyal to a fault. And think how long he stuck with Nick Mullins, despite averaging over 2.5 turnovers a game. When CJ Beathard came in and spot duty looked good, still sits on the bench. He doesn't like to rotate in and out players unless you're running back who fumbles. So I think even if let's say the 49ers are 5-3, I think they stay with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think the entire idea is, look, we're keeping him on our team for now, Jimmy Garoppolo. The trade market is completely dissolved. There's nobody out there. There's no demand for a quarterback. Every team's got something. So let's let him play, and let's not rush this. I don't think that you rush it. I think the only way Trey Lance finally gets in is turnovers. If turnovers are high on Jimmy, which we've seen before in the past, or if he gets injured. I literally think we could be 5-3 at the break and Jimmy just playing average. I think we stay with him. Kyle Shanahan is so stubborn whenever it comes to these things. I think that's what we would see.
I agree with that. I wholeheartedly believe that this is Jimmy's team this year, and it should be. I think as long as he can stay on the field, he's proven he's a quality quarterback. And recency bias has us placing Jimmy kind of in that 15-ish range, because even when we saw him last year, he didn't look healthy to me, but he didn't play well either, and his game was severely limited. But I think he's more than capable of carrying a good team to another Super Bowl. We've seen it, and I think he can do it again. I don't think it was a fluke or an aberration.
No, I'm with you there. I have him number 13 at the conclusion of the season. This is before the rookie quarterbacks come in. He's a slightly above average quarterback. That's what he is. Put him in a perfect situation, things go well. Again, we saw him get to the Super Bowl, whatever else. Even for the Jimmy G haters, you got to understand the 49ers were fine carrying this $25 million salary cap hit this year, despite already having Trey Lance. They're fine with it. And so we've built it. We have the money. We still have enough money to extend Fred Warner, by the way. So that's going to take place during training camp. We're fine financially. And so look at Kyle Shanahan has 3 losing seasons out of 4. Now, why were those 2 of those losing seasons? Because the quarterback got hurt. Now, if the quarterback gets hurt, you shrug your shoulders, go get him rookie. You might be better off. And so you're protecting yourself from injury.
Another scenario here that I want to throw your way. What if Jimmy G is playing like an MVP, man? What if Jimmy G is tearing it up and the Niners are 8-0, 9-1, and they get a first-round trade pick for him at the bye week?
There's a couple of those, like you go back to Carson Wentz, right? Whenever he was drafted number 2 and he goes into training camp, Minnesota Vikings, Teddy Bridgewater has the freak knee accident. They're able to send Sam Bradford in a moment of desperation to the Vikings for a first. That would be great. A lot of that's going to depend on, and the Eagles were comfortable making that trade because Carson Wentz was ready, coming from the same college, same offensive system. The transition to the NFL level, I understand people talk about the level of competition, but no, it's the verbiage. It's breaking the huddle. It's taking snaps under center. It's going through double motion cadence. It's going through all that, the timing. So he's going to have that. So if something like that happens, who knows? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Tom Brady gets hurt or whatever. Yeah, you seize the moment on that. Every single team will call the 49ers first. And if you can, take advantage of a team, you do that. But if Jimmy's playing MVP level ball, don't rock the boat. Again, 3 out of 4 losing seasons. So playoffs are playoffs. You get there first. That should be the goal.
I kind of think it reminds me a little bit like if that scenario happened, like Alex Smith, when he got sent out of Kansas City, was like coming off like his best year ever, like his career year. And they still, decided to move on because they knew how good Patrick Mahomes was.
Yeah, it was the right choice too. And if you stay with Alex Smith, how did he lose the job to Kaepernick? Got the concussion. And everybody's like, oh, you don't lose the job because of injuries. Colin Kaepernick comes in, looks all world. Yeah, sorry, buddy. You're not coming back in.
Yeah.
So, which Alex Smith transition model are we looking at? Injury or just being replaced? One of those is going to happen.
It's likely with Jimmy's history, it's going to be the San Francisco 49ers, Alex Smith. But, we don't know. We don't know. So what are some guys, man, rookie or vet? The only rookie you kind of talked about this, and I agree, Aaron Banks is the only guy who's going to start, right? what are some guys, maybe some guys last year who didn't get that rookie mini camp and all OTAs and all that, that are going to step up this year and have a big year?
The thing that the 49ers fans wanted was a wide receiver, and we didn't touch that. We have Debo, we have Ayuk. Everybody understands that. After that, it's just a mess. There's really not much there. But there was a guy we drafted 2 years ago that a lot of people are crossing their fingers, and Jalen Hurd. He was a third-round pick. Debo went second round. Jalen Hurd went third round. Well, he had the back issue during the preseason, so they sat him all year. Then he tore his ACL right as soon as training camp started in his rehab process. Well, that happened really early in training camp. So he's had time. And, John Lynch, you got to take him at the word. He's healthy. He's checked up. Everything's looking good. He's on pace. That would be the one that, like, man, if you could wave your magic wand and say, this guy stay healthy, that would be huge, because we don't have that number 3 spot filled at all. Juwan Jennings, another guy that was a 7th round pick from Tennessee. That's another big slot type wide receiver. Had a bad hamstring last year, never saw the field. He's another guy competing for that spot. But that number 3 spot, that's probably the biggest weakness on the team, to be honest with you. That number 3 wide receiver. Now, the good news for the 49ers is they run a lot of 2 tight end and, fullbacks, 2 backs system and all that kind of stuff, 12 and 21 personnel. So you don't use the number 3 wide receiver too often, but we've seen Debo hurt a lot. We've seen Brandon Ayuk get nicked up and miss time. If that happens, it's going to stunt the offense quite a bit. And that's my one concern. Just that wide receiver 3 position. Jalen Hurd, if he's healthy, watch out.
Yeah. Oh man, I was so hyped about Jalen Hurd. I thought maybe he would have a shot at like rookie of the year. Like I thought he was that dynamic when we got him, and I've just been soul crushed every year because he goes down before the year even gets started. I think right now that number 3 spot going into like camp and all that is going to be Richie James. I don't think he's consistent enough to hold that spot. I think it would end up being a rotation. But yeah, the hope is Jalen Hurd, man. Please stay healthy. That would be fantastic. For me, I think Mike McGlinchey is going to be a guy who steps up this year. And I think he has to. 1, he's playing for money. 2, I think he's a really high character guy. And high character guys put in the work. I think he's having trouble finding his weight. And I also don't think he's as bad as people make him out to be. He has he's like the dude in the NBA, man, who's on Shaq and the Fool all the time. Because it's like he'll just have like a 3rd and 3 and he just gets blown up. And it's just like, oh God, Mike, again? But it's like, no, that only happened twice, but it was just on 3rd down every single time.
Yeah,
or in a big spot.
The posterization was just so bad, and it happened at key moments. And it's just like, that's all people remember. What they forget is he had the highest run blocking grade for any offensive tackle in the NFL. Like the highest. He had a better run blocking grade than Trent Williams, which I have a hard time believing, but he just didn't have very many negative plays in the run game. But again, we have those 5 plays in our head where he just looked awful in pass protection. That's all people remember. So he's got to fix that. Most of those came in the 4th quarter as well. So a little bit of endurance issues and whatever else. Now, the good news is Aaron Banks, offensive guard, 2nd round pick, who we already talked about at Notre Dame, his best attribute is awareness. Yeah. He feels the pass, stunts and all these things. He's going to make Mike McGlinchey better. Because now Mike McGlinchey doesn't have to worry about anything inside. He lined up with so many different guards last year that never played guard. And it just, it was bad. Tom Compton was probably the most consistent guy we had there, and he was awful. Daniel Brunskill finally made the switch to center. Colton McKivitz was a rookie tackle that played inside. It was just bad. So he's finally going to get somebody next to him that knows what the hell they're doing. So that's going to make his job easier because he doesn't have to be all world anymore in pass pro. Focus on your guy, gather that. And like you said, if he doesn't take a step forward, it might be it for him. He's due the 10.8, the 5th-year option that they exercise next year, but that's only guaranteed for injury. So we'll have to see what happens there. I would love to see McGlinchey step up because this has the makings of a top 3 offensive line in the NFL now. He's the one that's you're questioning. If he steps up, it's top 3.
Oh yeah. I mean, if he can get to a Pro Bowl level, which he's already that in the run game, I mean, this would be one of the best lines in the NFL because we got Trent, Laken Tomlinson is an underrated guard. He had a bit of a rough year last year at points, but I think having quality center and consistent center play is going to help out the guards. Aaron Banks is a stud and pass pro, I feel like. And I feel like stunts were a big issue for the team last year. And, the center calls those protections out, and everyone's got to have their head on a swivel in that. Having Alex Mack, a vet, and a Pro Bowl vet at that is going to help with that. So I got Mike McGlinchey, you got Jalen Hurd. Hopefully they both work out, man. And maybe a little bit of Javon Kinlaw too, now that he's got an extra year under his belt. So a lot of news about Richard Sherman lately. I'm a little torn about this because I'd love to see E-Man play some more, develop some more, though I do think he's limited. Though I do think at this point, Richard Sherman is limited as well. We got Jason Verrett, who's injury prone. And, Sherman is an all-pro player and was just 2 seasons ago. And he was good last year when he was on the field. What are the pros and cons of bringing back a guy like Richard Sherman? Because he's going to be a starter. He's not coming back to be a backup.
Yeah, you're right. I think the biggest issue is just finances. The 49ers have already made the decision to keep Jimmy Garoppolo this year, and that kind of hamstrings them in a down cap year in their extensions moving forward. The only main extension you have to do is Fred Warner. That needs to get done. It will get done. I think you're going to need about $6 to $7 million to get that done. Right now, after paying all the draft picks, they're looking at about $8.5 million. So you're going to have to bring Richard Sherman. He's going to have to come back for a $2.5 to $3.5 million deal, or you're going to have to restructure somebody to get that money in. I don't think the issue is bodies in the cornerback room. Yeah, you drafted 2 corners, Ambry Thomas and Diamador Lenore. I like both those guys, but they're backups. You don't want them getting much playing time early. Mm-hmm. Sherman would increase their longevity because, one, he'd be like an extra coach to help them get to where they need to be. I would love to have Sherman back. I think he makes this locker room better. It's like an extra coach and all those things. Is he a top-tier corner? No, he's not. Is he better than Emmanuel Mosley? They're about the same. It would give us some depth, though. And I think that would be key. Again, insulating yourself from injury, that's the main pro, right? If you bring Sherman back, injury takes place, you're fine. Injury happens right now in that secondary, at the corner position. Yeah, you're like, all right, let's throw in a rookie. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, it's looking rough. Yeah, it's looking rough. Go ahead.
I was going to say, cornerback is a position that does take forever for people to kind of figure out. It's kind of like tight end. And I kind of think the Dolphins just signed Jason McCourty. And to me, that's a depth move. That's a to get some leadership in the locker room move. I think he might be the oldest guy in the team. I'm pretty sure he is.
And you got those connections with Brian Flores. I mean, they know each other well. So it works really, really well. And very similar to Sherman and the 49ers. I think Sherman probably lands in Seattle, if I'm going to be honest. I hate it, but it just makes too much sense. They're struggling at corner. Akello is like their only guy they have right now.
Yeah, you're right.
They still got DJ Reed too. A couple of 49ers on that Seattle secondary now.
Yeah. DJ Reed. That's going to haunt me forever.
No, man, I would love to see Richard Sherman back again. Yeah, I honestly think, man, if we get into training camp and he still hasn't found a squad, I think he might come back for around $3 million. I think we could do that. You spoke to about 2.5. And I think he would be a hell of a boundary corner for us. If we stick with that boundary open philosophy that we had last year, I know we just switched to it that year, but if you let Jason Verrett kind of play man over there, and Richard can't really play man at this point, not well at least, I think he'd be a hell of a boundary corner. And he's just so smart on the field. He's going to make a couple plays for you. Yes, he might get burned deep a couple of times, but he's going to make some plays for you too. So all in all, I think Richard coming back for the right price would be a plus move for the defense. Just moving back here a little bit, because I didn't talk about this and I wanted to. What do you think about Eric Armstead? Because he gets a lot of hate, right? And I feel bad for the guy, man, because he stepped up for the team and played out of position last year, coming off of his best year.
Yeah, I think Eric Armstead is the mirror to Mike McGlinchey. Mm-hmm. You have somebody that is an elite run defender. I mean, you're talking top 3 run defender, defensive edge guy. The problem is that's not what people want in the edge position. They want the pass rush and the sacks and the quarterback hits. And we get it. We saw that in 2019 whenever he had double-digit sacks. He led the team in sacks. Like, he had more sacks than Nick Bosa. The problem was he didn't get to play his position, like you said. There's a couple of sports writers out there that like to bag on one or two guys, and it's Mike McGlinchey.
Grant Cohn.
Possibly. I'm not going to say neither confirm nor deny. But the problem is they push that narrative, and his followers push those narratives so bad. And, he's in those press conferences, and he pushes those questions so hard. We had a draft press conference, and this dude's asking about Mike McGlinchey after we just it's just like, and it was a good question. Like, I love that he's in there because I think he brings a very unique voice, and we have a lot of just yes men in our kind of, draft pool, whatever else, our media pool. So I like that. But the problem is those narratives hit way too hard. Understand this. Eric Armstead is a leader on that defense, a leader in the community and the locker room. That dude is a perennial cornerstone to what this team is. So, and whenever you look at metrics and kind of what he puts up on the field, the reason why Fred Warner had the All-Pro year is because of Kinlaw, and it's because of Armstead. A big reason why the move to DeForest Buckner trade works so well is, guess what? DeForest Buckner, one of the best defensive tackles in football. I think he's an all-pro player. However, he does have some holes in his game. His run gap, he was always out of his gap. He got washed out of the hole so much. He's a little bit more of a finesse mover type guy, whereas Kinlaw is just an anchor defensive tackle. So whenever you get a player like Buckner, you're sacrificing your linebacker play because the gaps are going to get bigger on the inside. You bring in Kinlaw, now you're sacrificing pass rush production, but you're guaranteeing stopping the run. And this complementary football style that we have with Shanahan, we're going to run the ball better than anybody else. We're going to stop the run better than anybody else. It works that way. And so there's some trade-offs. And Eric Armstead's primary job is not to rush the passer. And people need to understand that because it's just not what it is. Now, if everybody's healthy, we've got our defensive ends out there, Bosa, Ibaka, all these other guys. Now he can do what he needs to do from the inside. And so we should see an improvement there if they stay healthy. That's a big if for us.
I was about to say that is a big if, but yeah, I'm hopeful, man. If he gets to play and rush the passer from the inside, he's going to be productive. Maybe not that 10.5 sack season that we saw, but if you're getting 6.5, 8 sacks from your interior line, that's fantastic production. And you're a stout run defender, you're going to go back to being a Pro Bowl level player. So I'm hopeful for that as well. So I want to move on to the juiciest of the juicy stuff now. I want to talk about some Trey Lance, man. So I love Trey Lance. If you're one of the many followers of the JK Sports Podcast, you know that I love him. He was my number 2 quarterback on my big board. I wasn't a fan of Zach Wilson. But why do you love Trey Lance?
So whenever you watch the quarterback position, you start going through this film and, you start writing up your things. I go off an abbreviated thing from the great Bill Walsh himself. He did a whole scouting portfolio thing and notes and scouting notebook for each position for the draft. It's incredible. And so what I try to do is I'm a teacher, so I turned it into kind of like a grading rubric, and you give numbers out and all this kind of stuff. And man, the problem that I had with Trey Lance was there's no negative plays. People want to throw him under the bus for his, accuracy issues over the middle, and rightfully so. Those are some issues. But whenever, if you're coach and you're coaching quarterbacks, you have a phrase, if you're long, you're never wrong. And so even if you're not accurate, you're never putting the ball in a susceptible place where it can be, picked off. And he did exactly that consistently. Now, there probably should have been a couple turnovers. There were some drop balls off defenders' hands, whatever. But this guy threw 0 interceptions. The idea of him going through his reads, like there's people out there that say, oh, he's a one read quarterback and run first guy. That's total BS. There are a lot of design runs. And so if you want to pull one of those, yeah, sure. The linemen are 10 yards downfield blocking. He's supposed to. You can't throw a ball there. It's a penalty. But this guy, he gets through everything, and his pocket presence was the thing that kind of made me fall in love with him. He never takes hits. It's not because he had an elite offensive line. He had a good offensive line. But when pressure comes in, he feels it and just floats so well. One of the issues why I had him over Justin Fields, and probably my biggest issue with Justin Fields, he just takes so many hits and sacks. It was such a problem. You don't see that with Trey Lance at all. He doesn't get hit, never takes big hits, and just navigates the pocket well and just protects the ball at all times. His awareness is level 100. He ran the ball a lot, had over 1,100 rush yards just in 1 year as a starter. But man, that dude knows where the first down marker is all the damn time, and it's awesome. It's pretty uncanny. You watch this guy, and it's North Dakota State. They're playing against nobodies, but you're just like, golly, what would it look like to take a 5-6 year veteran quarterback and place him in like a high school league? That's what it would look like. It's just so easy. He's never stressed, and everything is just like, okay, well, that was a really good throw, but it looked easy. It's like that for every game.
Yeah. He does make it look easy. The biggest issue I had, it was the accuracy. But I felt like that was mechanical, and I already see the improvement. I saw it in his pro day. Maybe not in the accuracy quite yet, but in the mechanics, because I felt like he surveys the field up high, and then he goes to throw and he goes boop, and he throws the football from a low base. It's like, it's fine if you want to be low, but stay low. And it's fine if you want to be high, but stay high. You don't want to be dropping your eyes up and down. And I feel like he's made the choice to be high when he throws the football. And I think that as he gets used to those mechanics, the accuracy will come. And then you're going to have like the perfect quarterback is really what it kind of seems like.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of it goes to how do you scout, or how do you go through this film? Are you trying to look for flaws, or are you trying to look for what the player can do? Right. Mm-hmm. And so you can talk down any player, and you can go with the narrative. Oh, who'd he play? Only 17 career starts. Oh, he's young. Oh, he's in this conference. That's great. You can do all those things. And a lot of people did that. And that's why they were really high on Mac Jones for some reason, who had the same number of starts, played on an all-star team, and has major off the field issues. But that's fine. Whatever. We
don't like to talk about Mac Jones anymore on this podcast. Now
I feel you, man. I feel you. But the other way to do it is, all right, what can he do? Yeah, there's some flaws. You talked about his mechanics. He winds up the ball a little bit too much. But then you watch his pro day, and I don't take a lot away from pro days. But good gosh, those mechanics were pretty damn clean compared to his game film. And so then I started thinking, all right, let's go back to some of the earlier games for Trey Lance and watch a later game right after that. And oh my gosh, so many of those things just are clean, so much clean. And so you constantly are seeing this trajectory that's increasing and getting cleaner and cleaner. So the kid's 20 years old. I think his birthday's this week. I think he turns 21 this week.
Sunday.
According to Jed York.
Yeah.
Can't even drink a beer.
Poor guy. Poor guy.
Who's got it better than us?
Oh man. Yeah, the sky is the limit for Trey Lance, and it starts with his work ethic. I'm seeing videos on 49ers Twitter about him working. He's working on the footwork. The mechanics look consistent. And while we knock him for not having a season last year, if you're playing in games, it's a lot harder to work on the very specific mechanics that he's doing, And I feel like having the year off may have been helpful in a sense that he got to strictly focus on mechanics. And when you're in the heat of a game, sometimes you revert to muscle memory. And he's had a year. Now it's going to be a year and a half to build up that positive muscle memory and really refine those mechanics. When most quarterbacks get 6 months in the offseason to do that stuff with a quarterback coach, he's going to have a year and 6 months. So I think that's going to help him a lot.
I think he really is like the biggest, clean slate as far as any quarterback coming out this year. Like, you can mold him, you can make him kind of whatever. Unlike, somebody like Justin Fields, who already had like issues, makes some bad decisions and stuff like that. Like, Trey Lance is a total clean slate. You can pretty much do what you want with him, and he can learn from Jimmy, and the guys you got over there. But
yeah, that may have been why he appealed to Shanahan as well. Shanahan wants his guy, right? He's never had that. So having a clean slate, a guy who's 20, even Justin Fields was 22, I believe. Mac Jones was 23. These guys have been in programs and established and had lots of high-level coaching, and maybe Shanahan just wanted a guy that he could just make his own. With that being said, what as fans are we looking to hear, right, from reporters? What are we looking to see in Twitter and Instagram? What do we want to see and hear about Trey Lance going through OTAs and training camp and through the season?
That kind of the good and the bad of Kyle Shanahan is this dude plays everything so close to the chest. We had Trent Baalke who would leak everything and all that kind of stuff. Then we had Chip Kelly, who wouldn't even let beat writers into practice or press conferences or whatever, just like didn't care. Yeah, he's just kind of an a-hole. That's who he is. Well, Kyle, what he tells you is honest, and he's going to be up front, but man, he will never give you any more than he wants to. And so you're not going to hear much. You really aren't until we get to, the open practices and preseason. So it doesn't matter what happens through minicamp. And another thing about Jimmy Garoppolo is this: he's a bad practicer. He has never been a good practicer. He's never had a good training camp. He's never looked great in the preseason. That's not who he is. He's a gamer. So you have to take that into account and put that in the context of where we're going, because guess what, guys? Like, Trey Lance is going to look better than Jimmy in practice. That's just all there is to it. But that's not going to figure into the equation of when he plays.
Yeah, he's just a bigger, better athlete, better, you know what I mean? Like, he will look impressive flinging that football around, spinning it. I heard somebody saying, like, he spins the ball with just so many RPMs. It's just like you can just hear it whistling from forever away.
His
he
nickname's
just rips
Smoke.
the football like
his
that.
nickname with his teammates is Smoke. Yeah.
It's exciting to have a big arm quarterback like that out there. So, the 49ers don't leak. You say it all the time. I stole it from you.
I love it, man. I love steal away.
But so let's just say Jimmy does go down. Let's say Jimmy goes down in training camp or week 2 again, like he did a few years ago, or week 3, like 3 years ago. Does Trey Lance, is he good enough? Do you think he'll be ready to get this team in contention for the playoffs?
The team, well, yes, first off, if we just had an average quarterback instead of Nick Mullins last year, 49ers would have made the playoffs with that crappy roster, with all the injuries and all the stuff. They still would have made it last year. Now, the interesting thing is this with Nate Sudfeld. I personally think, let's say Jimmy Garoppolo gets traded or goes injured or whatever else, I think Nate Sudfeld's going to see the first reps at quarterback. Kyle Shanahan is dead set on quarterbacks learning his system before they step in. Remember, we had the losing season and we traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. He sat for 5 weeks behind CJ Beathard, who was just getting destroyed, and we never made a change. So
he only came in because of injury.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And so, like, the amount of money that they paid for Sudfeld, I'm telling you right now, he's going to be in the equation somehow. I definitely wouldn't be shocked if that took place. Yeah,
$250K guaranteed to be your third stringer. Probably not.
I know some of your listeners just like said cuss words and like this guy, whatever. and I could very happily sit here and tell everybody what they want to hear, but I'm telling you right now, what the money and the contract says, they brought him in. That was done after the trade, so like they knew all along they were getting a quarterback at 3. They still paid to bring this guy in. There's a reason why.
Yeah, I remember that scared some people, man, that they were going to take Mac Jones because they brought in Nate Sudfeld. And sorry for all you Josh Rosen lovers, man. He just might not be showing enough. That's why you bring in Nate Sudfeld. I liked bringing in Josh Rosen too, but I guess he's just not showing enough. But okay, yeah, so all we need, top 15 quarterback type production. I think that's the grade most people would give Jimmy. Top 15 guys somewhere in there. And he took us to the Super Bowl. So, if Trey Lance can come in and give us top 15 quarterback production and can be dynamic even on some plays, the ceiling might even be higher. I'm so pumped for this season. It feels good to be excited for football again. There's been some dark days in the Bay, man, but I'm excited for this season. So to kind of wrap things up, what I wanted to do is give the Dolphins some love here and give maybe some of our thoughts on the AFC East, and then close it out with the NFC West, some picks for that 1 through 4. So just moving in, AFC East, man, what do you think's going on with that division? What are some of your thoughts on
it's interesting. Dakota, I know you're a resident Miami guy, so I'm curious, man. How do you feel the Dolphins executed this draft? Because I thought it was pretty damn awesome. I thought they crushed it.
Right. So we both kind of did separate videos for he did not the Niners. I did the Dolphins kind of analysis, and I gave them a B. So I was like the fan base is really mad about the whole running back thing. We didn't really get a running back, but like the more I think about it, our Myles Gaskin, who was our starting running back this last year, a former 7th round pick, he caught COVID. He had like a knee injury. He actually missed a lot of games. So if he was stayed in, he would have had like great production. He would have like probably rushed for over like almost 1,000 yards, maybe like he's great catching balls out of the backfield. So I kind of like really feel like we did address running back by signing what's the guy that was the Rams back
Malcolm Brown.
Yeah. So I'm not like super worried about it, but I do know that's going to help Tua. Like a running game is what helps Tua. So that's why it's important. But I do love what we did. We got a tackle. We needed Tua needed like a blindside protector. Leon Eichenberg, a teammate of Aaron Banks at Notre Dame. So they awesome. It's literally offensive line U kind of right now.
Yep.
So looking forward to seeing what he does. The only one that I had, the only questionable pick we had was the tight end.
Hunter Long.
But I mean, yeah, I think he like led he led NCAA in like catches or something like that this last year. So he's a good, reliable guy. He's got sick hands. He's not the fastest dude, but he's a total athlete. So I'm pretty happy with what we did. I think my favorite pick of the whole draft was Jalen Phillips.
I'm with you 100% there. And I know a lot of people tried to bag on Jalen Phillips for the injuries and stuff. And when you dive into kind of what happened, dude got ran over on a moped. Yeah. Like, what the heck? That's not his fault. Like, yeah, he had some issues and, wrist issues and concussion and head, like brain trauma. Like, good gosh. And so the dude's having problems. He retires. He hated Chip Kelly. We all hate Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly hates Chip Kelly. Like I get that at UCLA, takes some time off, kind of reassesses things and says, you know what, let's go back at it. And what does he do? Like, okay, if injury concerns are your issue, look how many snaps this guy played consistently last year. He played more than anybody else on Miami. Yep. The dude was an Iron Man. You're going through game film, the all 22 stuff. You don't have to fast forward very much because that dude, he's just out there. And he made a point to prove that. Now, you take away some of his injury concerns. This guy's going top 6. Right. You got him at 15, and that's a hell of a player. 18. Like, 18. Sorry. I mean, absolutely incredible. I put a wager in. I thought he'd be the first edge off the board. He wasn't, but he was up there. You got a steal there. Now, the thing that I was most impressed with is just the finessing of the board. 49ers traded up to 3 with you guys. Y'all pull 2 extra first and a third round pick. Then you say, you know what? We really want to go get a wide receiver. You jump up, give one of your first round picks in the future to the Eagles, and you get your guy, Jalen Waddle, who we already know had the most success with Tua. Yeah. You go back and you watch that 2019 tape, and I remember this. I'm on there, going through these players, and I'm like, all right, let's talk about Jerry Jeudy. Let's talk about Henry Ruggs. And the whole time I'm like, who the hell is that? Like I'm trying to grade these guys last year, and the whole time I'm like, the best wide receiver on the field is Waddle. He's way better than Ruggs. He's way better than Jeudy, and it's not even close. And he's a year younger. So I love that pick. And the cool thing is, your wide receiver room, I think, is perfect for Waddle. You've got Fuller, who's probably only played 10 games tops, the Jimmy G of wide receivers. But he's going to blow the top off the field. And you got Devontae Parker, another big guy, not a big fan, but still you're going to let Waddle operate underneath. Mm-hmm. And I think he is just going to have a blast in this offense. I think it's going to work perfectly.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, like when you really noticed him was like watching old like Tua tape.
We lost him again. Oh,
you can't hear me? Am I good?
No, we lost you for a second. You're back in. Yeah. You're good.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Spotty internet or something.
Oh, there he goes again. He's jumping in and out, man.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
No, hold on. Yeah, I'll just go for a minute.
In and out.
Yeah, I'll just go for a minute here while you sort that. But yeah, I loved the Jalen Waddle pick. I remember we were watching the draft and we recorded some of our reactions, and it sucked that Pitts and Chase wasn't on the board. I thought the Bengals did a really dumb thing. And I thought the Falcons kind of did a dumb thing too. It just felt like a luxury pick for a team that couldn't afford luxuries. It's like you're living on welfare and you just bought a Rolex. But the Waddle pick works because he might have been the best receiver in the draft with the ball in his hand. And I felt like that's something that Tua really needed. And I felt last year when he was playing, Tua was looking good. And then he lost Preston Williams. Is that his name or Wilson? I always confuse that.
Williams.
Preston Williams lost him. Then he lost Parker. And I felt like that was a direct correlation to the downgrade in his play because he was looking real good. And it all kind of culminated with that Arizona Cardinal game. And he looked so good. And that's when he lost Preston Williams. So I feel like you bring in a guy who's just going to go out there and make plays for you. It's really going to help Tua. And obviously you have Parker back. You have Preston Williams. The wide receiver room is just looking better. Maybe involve Gesicki a little bit, build some rapport. Just a good pick for them. I felt like they needed a receiver. I know line is a need too, but I felt like receiver was the way to go there because you're not getting Waddle at 18. And then you were able to draft Jalen Phillips, who's the best pass rusher in the draft any other year. You know what I mean? These pass rushers don't last till 18 ever. You got to trade up or be in like the top 5, top 10 for these guys. So I just thought it was a steal for them on both picks.
Yeah, and I'm loving, man, what Brian Flores has done with this team. I usually hate all of the Belichick offshoot coaches. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And they try to replicate the process. This dude's his own man, and he is not doing the same things. There are some tendencies that are similar, but this is his team. And I love it, man. I'm not a Dolphins fan by any stretch, but I love seeing these guys be successful. I love watching them just do their own thing. That move from 3 to 12, then back to 6, that's going to be fun to watch for a long time. They knew who they wanted. They were going to go wide receiver. They're sticking with Tua. And now let's just say hypothetically, let's say Tua is a dud this year. I don't think that's going to be the case. I actually like Tua. But let's just say hypothetically he is. You now have the draft capital still to go up and get a quarterback in the future. Right. So you're not tied to anybody long term. I think Tua will be successful, and what you drafted will help him be even more so successful. But you're not married to this guy. Not yet. You can still figure some stuff out. So I love what they're doing. The Liam Eichenberg pick, the fact that you had 4 picks in the top 42.
It's crazy, yeah.
You got 4 starters. You got 4 starters. Somebody else might pan out. Jared Dokes out of Cincinnati. I enjoyed his film, actually. I really liked him. I didn't think he would go, 7th round. I had a 5th round grade on him, but the dude could play. And again, you talked about running back. I just don't value that position. No. 49ers traded up for one, whatever. That's fine. I don't think that's going to make or break your season. You build on defense, and now your quarterback takes just a moderate step up. You guys won 4 out of your last 6 games against some quality competition. Yeah, this has been a good damn football team. And so could they win the division? I unfortunately, I think the Bills are just head and shoulders above you guys. Oh, yeah. But man, I'm picking you guys way over the Jets and way over the Patriots. I don't even think it's close. So I think you guys are a borderline playoff team. We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm just like what worries me the most is the Bills. Like I really do think that they're like top 2, top 3 teams in the league. Like,
hey, they destroyed us right before they destroyed you, man. The worst game both of our teams had last year was against those damn Bills. The fighting Josh Allen's. They took it to us.
The last game of the year, man. Oh my God, disgusting. We win, we go to the playoff. We win, we go to the playoffs. And we get absolutely obliterated.
That game was over in the first quarter.
Yeah. Dude, just ripped up. I couldn't believe it. Terrible. Our good defense, great pass defense, gives up like 5 touchdowns, like before halftime. I was like,
I know. I texted him and was like, "How you doing, man?" He's like, "Man, F this."
I love it.
Fandom, man. Fandom. It drives us crazy. So you said the Bills head and shoulders best team in the AFC East. I agree. Miami, though, I think is a clear 2. I'm not big on Mac Jones. I don't even know if he'll play right away, and if he does, I think he'll struggle. So I think there's going to be a toss-up here. Jets, Patriots. Patriots are better than the Jets, but they're 3-4 in that division pretty clearly. Tough to win 10 games and not make the playoffs. But you have a shot at 11-12 this year, I feel like, especially with the 17-game season. Yep. So I think you'll be pushing for that wild card spot, in my opinion. NFC West, man, let's bring it back. What are your picks for the NFC West?
I go 49ers 1, Rams 2. Again, I just think Stafford's going to be a huge addition. The Rams were good despite Jared Goff. those turnovers and all those things. So it's going to be curious to see what that looks like. Now, the issue is that offensive line's not great for the Rams. And so you're going to be seeing Stafford run all over the place. But I think it comes down to those two teams. And again, I'd go Arizona 3. I'm going Seattle dead last, man. I just don't believe in that roster. And every time I say that, I'm like, come on, it's Russell Wilson. He's going to do something. But the team just doesn't have it, man. It's you line it up across the board, matchups. That's what the NFL's about. They're the worst matchup team. Like, it's not even close. The strengths are wide receiver and quarterback, nothing else. Strong safety, congratulations.
Yeah. You got a great box safety over there in Seattle, baby. No, man. The only thing that would make me happier than Seattle coming in last place in the division is if the Niners win the Super Bowl. So that would be amazing for me. But I feel like Seattle, I think they're going to be 3. And I just think that because I don't see Kyler getting much better than what he is for the Cardinals. I think he's an electric player and he's going to be a fan favorite and he's always going to be in like the top 10 Vegas picks for MVP because of that, or he's going to be that for a while. But I just don't really see his game developing like I'd like to see it. I think he's just limited based off what he can do. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm not a Kyler fan. I think that he has the talent, but in that coaching system, they're not protecting him. And all you see it every week, him running around, making these freaking circus plays. You can't do that consistently. You can't do it. And so we'll have to see. I don't see it. I really don't see it. They go get James Conner. That's going to solve the problem.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
I almost feel like the NFC West is going to come down to injuries. Like, I feel like because of like the amount of talent that's over there, it's going to come down to who's the healthiest team in the NFC West this year. They'll win the division.
And if that's the case, the 49ers and the Cardinals are the only team with depth. Seattle and the Rams are the two most top-heavy teams, and they have nothing outside of their quarterback and wide receivers. You can say that for both teams. Now, defensively, obviously the Rams got some key pieces, but you can't say that about Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. No. I would love to see Seattle come in last. I do think they come in third place in this division, though. Niners, they're my pick. They got to be. Even when they went to the Super Bowl, they were ravaged by injuries, among the league leaders and IR guys. But as long as we keep our key guys healthy, I think we'll do just fine and win that division. So with all that, I think we'll wrap it up. Basically, you heard it here first, man. Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, first ever co-MVPs. 49ers win the next 6 Super Bowls. John Chapman said it on the podcast first.
I love it. I love it.
But thank you, John, so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Hopefully we can do it again. But I think that's it, man. Cody, you got anything to say?
No closing thoughts. John, did you realize you have the same name as real Johnny Appleseed?
Yeah, man. Middle school was great for me. Definitely didn't get in any fights over that one. Which at the point, I don't know why that would piss me off, right? Little fat, chubby John Chapman. Somebody, like, we're doing a reading packet and somebody, it says John Chapman on there. Now I have to fight 5 kids after school. I don't even understand how that transition was made. But turns out, here's a little twist. I'm allergic to apples. So boom, Johnny Appleseed, take that.
All right. And I know you won those fights too. I
got a good fair share. I was a chunky kid.
But yeah, other than that, that's it. Like Joey said, thanks so much, John, for coming on. It's great talking with you. Hopefully we can do it again.
Absolute blast, guys. Really appreciate it. Love what you guys do. Love the energy, man. It is a lot of fun. I could do this all the time. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Hey, man, I'm going to hold you to it. Don't say that on this podcast because I'm going to keep calling you. All right, man. Well, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.